because I might not remember them. Oh, I'm live right now. Well, everybody, thanks and welcome to the Ace Cafe. Can I hear a little hey? All right, that's what I want to hear. All right, welcome to the Ace Cafe. It's Porsche night, and we have somebody that's going to be our host for Porsche. His name is Brian Cheney. He told me to say that he's a Porsche enthusiast. I don't know why he wants me to say that. He said in about 1980, if I get this right, he was working with the IMSA race group, and he was racing cars, and I met, he'll tell you this story, but I met him by accident through my son, and he's probably sorry that he did. Brian, come on out. All right, here's Brian. All right, I'm going to turn it over to him. It's his show. Be nice to him.
All right, guys. Well, it's great to be at Ace tonight. Just want to thank Hank and everybody from Cycle Fever TV, Sean and Crazy John, I guess it is over here. You know, it's just an awesome place here, the Ace Cafe. I heard about it through the guys at Cycle Fever TV and came out here one night a couple of months back and watched them do their thing and just really fell in love with the place pretty much instantly. Came out here with my wife Leslie and we had just a blast with these guys. You know, there's so much history of this property, and there's a lot of history with Ace Cafe, and it's just exciting to be able to start to share that with everybody here in the Orlando, Central Florida area. We've got a lot of folks in this area that are Porsche folks that are really passionate about their cars, and you know, I think when you look at the combination of Ace Cafe and that passion, it's just an awesome combination, to tell you the truth. And I want to bring out Simon, young man over here. So Simon, join us. How you doing, Simon? Good to see you. Simon, you know, he's got a passion about Porsche as well. And so how did you find out about Ace Cafe first?
I actually first heard about the original Ace through my dad, who would go to the originally back in the 60s.
Wow.
Motorcycles.
So the original Ace Cafe in England.
Yeah.
So for those of you that aren't familiar, Ace Cafe started over in the UK, and now we're here in the US. So what did he tell you about Ace Cafe back then?
A lot of illegal stories of drag racing and things that you weren't supposed to be doing, but a good time with motorcycles, so it kind of carries on.
Okay, so he was a bike guy. And were you a bike guy too? And are you always just been a car guy?
My mom was an ER nurse growing up, so she was going to kill me first. So no motorcycles.
Okay, all right. So she wanted to keep you safe,
Yeah.
keep you in order, right? Well, I'll tell you what we're going to try to do here for the next few months is talk to you a little bit about Porsche, the sort of the history and heritage of Porsche. We want to, you know, give you a little bit of information. To give you a little more background about Porsche and why people are so excited about Porsche. So we're going to go ahead and dive into that right now and sort of get into a little bit of a storyline about Porsche that's pretty interesting, and it's really a storyline about how history is repeating itself right before our eyes with Porsche, because back in 1948 the first Porsche road car, the first car that was named after Dr. Ferdinand Porsche, came to be. In 1948, it was called a 356 Gmund Coupe, and it was much like the car that you see right here over to our right. This little 356C that's owned by a local gentleman by the name of John Reeker, who we're going to be bringing in just a minute to talk about it. But that original Porsche from 1948, this was a pretty exciting little car. It had a 4-cylinder, 1.1 liter horizontally opposed engine. And if you don't really know what that means, I'll sort of draw the comparison to maybe an American V8 or a Harley V-twin, where, you know, the engine is in a V formation, right? The crank and rods are sort of in a V configuration, and these horizontally opposed motors are much like what maybe some car guys saw in a Corvair, or what some bike guys see in a BMW motorcycle that's horizontally opposed. Really pretty interesting stuff. That original car had 39 horsepower back in 1948, that Gmund. Reached a top speed of 87 miles an hour. Okay, so this is a real burner back in the day. But I want to go ahead and bring in John. So John, why don't you come in and join us, and we'll talk a little bit about your car. Thanks for coming in tonight and talking to us about your little treasure here, this 1965 356C, right?
Yeah, okay. Well, thanks for having me, Brian. Brian said, where did I get the bug? My brother and I were in the Navy in California over 40 years ago, and he had a Speedster, which I drove a lot. So I caught the bug, you know, driving around Southern California in a Speedster. Didn't get any better back then. So when I got out of the Navy and got married a few years later, I bought a 1964 C Coupe. That was my first Porsche, and I drove it to work. And, you know, it was not something I just drove on the weekends. I drove it to work every day. Eventually I did sell that and owned a number of 911s. As recently as 2 years ago, I had a 1996 911 known as a 993. I've had this car for 20 years, so for a while I had the 911 and the 356. This car is the last year, 1965. You were mentioning the horsepower. The advertised horsepower is 107 horsepower, weighs 2,050 pounds, and they're just so nimble, and they just fit like a glove. Porsche paid a lot of attention to ergonomics, and I just really enjoy actually driving this car a little bit more than I did the 911. And believe it or not, I autocrossed this car. Looks like a garage queen, but I've driven this car 6,000 miles this year. One of the trips was up to West Virginia. Met a bunch of other 356s, and we ran around the back hills of West Virginia for a week and drove home. And then I went up to Asheville and PCA event, drove around on a bunch of tours. So I actually had the 911 and this car at the same time. And when I went to autocross, I chose this car. It's an open car, nimble, you know, the real feel, power nothing, you know, it's a U-Power. It does have probably the main similarity to the latest car here is disc brakes. In 1964 and 5, they introduced the C model. It had disc brakes. So that was sort of pioneering back then.
Oh, that's cool. So John, maybe you can tell us a little bit. I know when I first met you a number of years ago, I think it was at a Cars and Coffee with the local Porsche Club, which shout out to the local Porsche Club here, the Citrus Region Porsche Club. You know, they have a strong organization in Central Florida, and I think I remember meeting you there and talking about the car and really getting an idea about the fact that it wasn't a garage queen, and you were telling me about all the different Porsche parades. And for those who aren't familiar with Porsche Parade, this is the largest Porsche event that happens every year in the U.S., where people come from all over the country and sometimes from all over the world to show off their cars, have fun. It's about a week-long event, and it's held in a different city across the country. And you were telling me about all the different Porsche parades that you've driven this car to. How many Porsche parades have you driven it to?
Well, I've been to about a dozen parades, but I have to say just the last two in this car. But the most exciting one was Vermont. 2 years ago in northern Vermont, they had the parade, and I drove all the way up to Vermont and then took a couple of weeks driving back. So that was quite an adventure. That was 2,000 or 3,000 miles by the time I got through. And then they've had some what they call treffens, smaller, shorter get-togethers, and that was one in Asheville just this last September. And I drove it up there, and we ran around the hills there for about 3 or 4 days.
Awesome.
So it has been far afield, and actually there's another club called the 356 Registry, and they put on what they call holidays. They're like a 4 or 5 day get-together around the country, like parades. And I've been to, probably 10 of those, 10, 12, Lancaster, PA, Williamsburg, Charlotte, all Texas, you name it. So yeah, it's seen a lot of road miles, and I still just love to get it out there, especially a cabriolet, and it's just fun roaring around the hills. You can see better, and the wind in your face.
Well, there's nothing better than that. You know, John, thanks so much for coming out, sharing your passion about your car, a little bit of history on the 356, and now you all have a little bit of better idea of what a 356 Porsche is all about. So again, thanks, John, so much for coming out and sharing your story with us. All right, thank you so much.
Brian.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's almost 70 years now since that first Porsche 356 Gmünd came out. And, you know, what's pretty amazing when you look at this car here, the 4-cylinder 356, and then it sort of gets even more amazing when you look next to me here. And so this is the latest version. Porsche is continuing to build 4-cylinder cars 70 years later. So as I talked earlier about history repeating itself, well, here's the evidence, guys. This is a brand new 2018 718 Boxster 4-cylinder car. Now this one is 2.5 liters, so more than twice the displacement of the first Gmünd car. But now we're talking about a car that's got 350 horsepower and a top speed of over 170 miles an hour. So quite a big difference in this car. And so what I want to do next is bring up Andreas Moraitis with Porsche of Orlando. And we want to thank Andreas for coming out. So it's good to see you, Andreas. And we want to thank Porsche of Orlando so much for bringing his car out and loaning it to us tonight, so we can tell a little bit more about that. Now, Andreas, we met, you know, probably over the course of the last year or so. So I know that you're a Porsche guy through and through. Been around Porsche for years and years, and so super nice to have you out here. And what's pretty cool about this car, you know how things just sort of come together. Well, what we found out after we got Porsche of Orlando to bring this out is that Andreas actually was on staff at Porsche of Orlando at the time and actually ordered this car. Put all the different options on it, got it ordered into the dealership. So I'm not going to steal any of your thunder. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about this special 718 Boxster.
Sure. This is thanks, Brian, again, and Ace Cafe and everybody. 2018 718 Boxster S, 350 horsepower out of a 2.5 liter engine, which is really quite an accomplishment. I personally now drive a 718, and you know, there's been a lot of talk in the automotive world whether, you know, oh, Porsche went back to a 4-cylinder. They've done it before, obviously. They did it before the 718 as well again. But a lot of question, you know, is this going to be a real Porsche? Is this motor going to be enough? Is it going to sound good? Is it going to handle? Is it going to be the real business? And I can tell you firsthand, and I'm as hardcore as it gets when it comes to Porsche, that the car is not only fast, it is significantly faster than the 2005 Carrera I owned that I replaced it with, and significantly faster than my previous 2015 modified Cayman S, just with the regular 718 Boxster or Cayman. So any doubts in the motor, any doubts in Porsche's ability to continue to constantly push the envelope in performance, out the window. The car really has to be driven to be believed.
Wow, so that's fantastic. So, you know, these cars are super exciting. I know that when they came out with the 718s, you know, I looked at them, the styling, just a super sexy looking car. I think a lot of people are enjoying the styling from the 718. It's really cool to see that Dr. Porsche's, you know, his original vision for a Porsche car being a 4-cylinder is still very much alive today with the 718. I think it's a real statement from Porsche engineering, from Porsche designers, that Porsche has an amazing ability to, you know, keep our attention, and to keep our attention for a very long period of time. When you look from 1948 into current day, and still releasing a 4-cylinder car, and it's exciting, you know, Porsche drivers and enthusiasts all over the world today. So it's really a pretty cool time. So Andreas, thanks so much for coming in and talking about the 718 with us.
Thanks very much.
All right, great. Well, as I said, you know, that passion for Porsche is very much alive today. For folks who don't know much about Porsche, there's close to a quarter of a million Porsches will be built this year, 2017. And the thing about it is, a lot of people identify or recognize Porsche most by the iconic 911 that Andreas mentioned that he owned. I own a 911 with my wife. You know, she came to an autocross event back in the 80s at Sebring with me one year. Had a Porsche 914, which I still own at that time, and she came out to that event, and she saw a yellow 911. And she said, that's the car that I want someday, you know, that 911. So it was probably about 2004, and I was able to get that set up for her. So we got ourselves a nice 911 back then. But it's red. All right, I didn't get a yellow, but it's red. But she loves that 911. So you know, a lot of cool things about the 911. But today, you know, so much has changed in Porsche over the years. It's not only about the 911 today. In fact, this year, you know, when you look at total production numbers, it's the sport luxury sport utes, the Macan, the Porsche Cayenne. These are cars that are making up 60% of Porsche's production today. So super exciting to see sort of the evolution of Porsche, what they've been able to do. Again, I mentioned, you know, Porsche designers and engineers have this ability to get our attention and to hold it. And I think when they came out with the Cayenne back in 2002, I think it was, a lot of people were wondering, what in the heck is Porsche doing? You know, why are they coming out with a sport utility? Well, I think now everybody knows that was they were ahead of their time in thinking, and they made the right decision back then. 60% of production for Porsche comes from Cayennes and Macans today. So these are wildly successful vehicles. Another vehicle that you may see on the road, Porsche Panamera, the 4-door sedan. You're seeing these cars pop up all over town. You see them on the streets everywhere. Another thing that folks sort of wondered, what was Porsche doing when they're introducing a 4-door sedan? So, you know, Porsche gets it right. They really seem to understand the driving public. And one thing's for sure, amidst all this change over all the years, one thing is for sure, when you drive a Porsche, you know that there is no substitute for Porsche. So, what I want to do is change gears a little bit. We're going to go ahead and bring in Simon again, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about his passion for Porsche. We got a quick little glimpse of Simon a little bit earlier, but Simon is part of a business called Driver's Choice up in Longwood, Florida, and they handle Porsche maintenance and service. They're also heavily involved with the local Porsche Club and Porsche owners all over Central Florida. Helping them in the Porsche Club, whether it be special events that they do, helping to prepare their cars for track days, autocrosses, you name it. So we're just going to give Simon a chance to go ahead and tell us a little bit more about his passion for Porsche, and also about all the things that Driver's Choice does for Porsche owners all over Central Florida.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. So I actually grew up around Porsches with my dad having a 76 Targa and a 77 Targa S. Several years earlier.
Targas rule, man. Targas rule.
Yeah. Unless you find a rusty floor pan, but we won't get into that. Yeah, so when I started my professional career in the automotive industry, I actually worked for Toyota for a number of years. And after a while, it got really hard to be excited about Camrys and Priuses and minivans. So I decided to jump ship, and the first brand that came to mind was Porsche. So I made a cold call or a cold email and made the leap of faith, and it worked out. So I was actually a dealership technician for just over 4 years at Porsche Orlando. And then myself, my business partner Mike Colon, started Driver's Choice Motors to kind of give an alternative to the dealership and be more involved with what we like to do with the track and the local Porsche community. We felt there was a need for it, and obviously there has been. So basically, we run an operation that deals a lot with the late model Porsches. It's kind of our strength, considering both myself, my other technician, worked for the dealer up to a few years ago. So basically that's what we do. Heavily involved in the community. It's a great group of people. You know, even myself, I had thoughts of, you know, well, people just care about detailing their cars and concourses, and you find that there's a wide swath of people. People that care about that stuff, but then people that care about going to the track and getting covered in rocks and rubber. So whatever your passion within the automotive world, Porsche kind of fits it.
Well, you know, we talk about the local Porsche Club, and you know what we're trying to do through our involvement with Cycle Fever TV is really do some cross collaboration, right? I mean, we're so many guys and gals out there love motorcycles, love cars. They just love sort of that brotherhood, that sort of gearhead, open road, sense of just having a great time. And really, when you think about that, and you think about Ace Cafe, everything that Ace can offer that whole community here in Central Florida, it's awesome. And to hear you say that, hey, you want to offer an alternative to the dealership. But the relationship with the dealership is fantastic, right? Obviously, it's never changed. So, there's plenty to go around for everybody. They got plenty of choices where they can, get their cars serviced and maintained and taken care of. And it's really all about the relationships. So, the relationships that we're starting to build out here, we're trying to encourage more people to come out and check out Ace Cafe. Whether you're a car guy or a bike guy, you're a 4x4 guy, a Chevy guy, a Ford guy, a Porsche guy, a BMW, an Audi, whatever it might be, just come out and have fun and enjoy yourself out here. So, when we spoke a little bit earlier about your dad coming out to Ace Cafe, and you sort of coming out here, what do you really think people should look forward to in coming out here to Ace Cafe? Like, what is it about Ace particularly, what you've seen here, that really gets you excited to tell people about Ace?
It's just a great hub in a central location for people who are enthusiasts to show up. And it doesn't matter what your flavor is. There's bikes, Porsches, there's Volkswagen nights, there's Mopar nights. There's whatever you want. You look at the calendar. And when it first started coming up, we started looking at the calendar and going, wow, every single night of the week they're doing something for somebody. And there's no other entity in town that's doing it, bar none. So Porsche Night's special to us, obviously. We'd love it to grow. And the big part of that is probably getting people to understand that if you show up here and want to look at Porsches, we're not going to turn our nose up to you.
That's right.
It's a very welcoming community. We're just passionate about Porsches. But whatever your flavor is, you look at the calendar, it's almost obscene how many times you can show up here to look at cars. And I know I'm guilty of it. So.
Yeah. Well, I know we can't get enough. We went out to Cars and Coffee with the out in Ocoee on this past Saturday, and as we're talking there, we're like, okay, we're going to go over to Ace Cafe for their Cars and Cafe after that. So, Cars and Coffee. So we double dipped on Saturday and just had a blast. So as we start to wrap up, so thanks for coming in and having fun with us tonight.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it. I got to be honest. We're gonna talk a little bit with some of the owners of Ace Cafe in a few minutes, but I got to be honest with you. First of all, I maybe told a little white lie a little bit earlier. Maybe gave you a little piece of fake news, if you will, right? We've all heard about fake news quite a bit in the last year or so. And that piece of fake news that I gave you was that the very first Porsche, the very first vehicle designed by Dr. Ferdinand Porsche was the Gamun 356. But that really isn't the truth. Does anybody here, any of the Porsche guys here know what really the first Porsche was? Do you know?
1918.
No, 19 what?
1918.
Let's see, 1918. I don't see 1918 on here. I'm looking, and I think it says. What does it say?
Check your notes.
Where is it? 1918?
That's Hank's birthday.
I think it said 1898. I think you got the number. I think you got the numbers messed up. It was 1898.
I'm dyslexic.
It was 1898. They call him Crazy John.
Dyslexic.
Yeah, exactly. Dyslexic Hank. But it was 1898. It was an electric vehicle, right? It was an electric vehicle that Dr. Porsche designed. It was called the Phaeton. And so for Volkswagen fans, you've probably heard of that. So really what we're talking about, again, is history repeating itself once again. Porsche started with an electric vehicle. The very first designed Porsche car was an electric vehicle, and coming up soon, because of all the success that Porsche has had in recent years with the 919 hybrid electric, prototype race car that's raced in the 24 Hours of Le Mans and won several times here over the last few years. They've announced that now there's going to be a road car, an electric sports car called the Mission E Porsche. So this is going to be something super exciting. We're going to see how, not only four-cylinder cars can survive, all this time, and Porsche continue to roll out that, but Porsche is also going to come out now with some amazing electric vehicles. So that kind of wraps us up with Porsche stuff for the night. So what I want to do, and I think Mark with Ace Cafe, he's the owner from Ace Cafe USA. He's going to come up and join us. So Mark, it's really good to see you. And again, we want to thank you so much for having us out here and giving us an opportunity to share such a wonderful place that you guys have put here for us. As I said, all the historic value of this building really is fantastic. It's wonderful that you guys are coming into the community and thinking about that, wanting to preserve a treasure of the town in this building in downtown Orlando. So thanks for that, and thanks for having us out there. So tell us a little bit more about Ace Cafe.
Brian, thank you very much, and thanks to the Porsche Club of Citrus Region and Porsche of Orlando. We appreciate everybody being out here tonight, and one of our main sponsors, Auto Geek. But the third Monday of every month is Porsche Night. You go to our website, acecafeusa.com, and find out our full calendar of everything that happens out here. You're passionate about cars, motorcycles, rock and roll. And we have a special guest here tonight, George Chuknikas. And George is one of the founding partners of Ace Cafe London. And Ace Cafe started in 1938, celebrating our 80th year. And so George happens to be here in town with us tonight. And, George, maybe you can share a little bit about Ace Cafe London and how Porsche means something to Ace Cafe London.
Hi all, thanks Brian. I think Simon did an excellent job on the Ace Cafe London. There's nothing to add.
Even the drag racing.
Well, it is true what you said. It's just it's a place that everything happens. Every night is different. Every night belongs to somebody. Being a car night, a bike, or a trucks, buses, anything that has an engine and wheels and takes fuel, we have it. Even electric, is important there. And it's been there since 1938. So next year we're celebrating 80 years of the Ace Cafe London. And of course, let's take the mechanical version of the Porsche. We're celebrating 70 years of Porsche.
Fantastic.
Electric aside for now. We are going from strength to strength. What you see here tonight is happening on a regular week, every month, in London, in Barcelona, Luzerne, Finland, and Beijing as well. Believe it or not, there's many Porsches there. So, it is an interesting place of gathering for everybody, no matter what you drive, no matter what you ride. And I'm so impressed here, every space more or less is filled with Porsche. And in the Ace, we only have space for about 50 cars. Here, we do have more than 100. So, excellent night. I'm very happy to be here. I'm going to be here for a few more days. So, thank you for inviting me, and thank you for allowing me to say a few words.
Wow, awesome. Well, thanks so much. As I said, it's awesome to have you guys here in the community. It's awesome how you guys have embraced the community, and we want to do everything we can to spread the word about Ace Cafe and all the fun that you can have coming down here, and just share that brotherhood, that sisterhood of cars and machines and rock and roll, and get people out here and get them aware and understanding really what the Ace brand means and how much fun they can have out here. So thanks again, guys, for being here with us and having us out here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah. All right, guys, so I think that pretty much wraps us up for tonight with Porsche Night. Again, big thanks to the guys at Cycle Fever TV. I mean, that really speaks to the type of camaraderie and partnership, that can be had out here and the fun that can be had. I never thought that I'd be out here doing this about 2 months ago when I came out to see them, and now I'm sitting here doing what they were doing, and it's been a lot of fun. So thanks for coming out. We're looking forward to telling you a little bit more about Porsche and teaching and exposing you a little bit more to Porsche each and every month moving forward, I think, for the next 2 or 3 months. So that's it. We're signing off for Cycle Fever TV, unless Hank or you guys have anything else for us.
You stay right there.
Okay, all right.
How about that? A great job, huh? keeps this up, he's also going to take over Sean's spot on Cycle Fever TV. I want to thank everybody. Every Porsche night for the next 2 months. Bring all your friends out. We're going to do another live one. Get some questions up. Anybody that's online that is watching this, if you've got any questions, send them in. We'll have them ready. I'm sure you can answer them all.
Oh yeah, we're ready. We are ready to answer anything Porsche, share anything Porsche. We're ready.
All right, folks. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, guys.
Have a Merry Christmas. We'll see you next year.
All right.